Hi again. This is Judy and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for coming to visit. If you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, it's free. You don't have to pay for it. Just hit the subscribe button and maybe the notification bell so that if I upload another video, if I do, that's a joke, I definitely will. So when I upload another video, you might get a notification and you can come on over and see what I have to say. At the end of the video, if you like what you heard or even if it was interesting to you, hit that like button for me too, okay? Today I'm going to talk about why do some people seem so familiar even though you know you've never met them before. Back in 1980, I was working at a bank and they asked me to go to Atlanta, Georgia to learn about this new computer system that we were getting. We were before that not using computers. It was in 1980. Computers, the use of computers in businesses was just starting, and we had decided to go ahead and automate. And so they sent me and with a couple of other colleagues to learn about the system, and my job was going to be to run the computer to make sure if it crashed, for instance, I had a backup and all that kind of stuff. I didn't know anything about computers, but I went there to learn as well as anything else. And there were two gentlemen who basically were our hosts and were teaching us about the computers themselves, but really the software, which back then the word software meant nothing to me. I remember I was taking notes because he'd say things like motherboard, and I was like, you have to kind of picture 1980, nobody had a computer in their home or anything like that. Computers were, I don't want to say brand new, they weren't brand new, but they were not used in businesses very often until right around that time, so this was all new. And I remember asking the guy, what's a motherboard? And of course I can compare everything in my life to either spirituality or labor and delivery. So I started thinking, motherboard? Is it worthing something? But yeah. So one of the men who were kind of explaining things to us over the next, 3-4 days we were there, and they took us out to dinner, and it was really nice. We went to some kind of a club at some point, and had a couple drinks. I don't remember dancing, but we might have been dancing too, I don't know. It was a fun trip. I had never been on an airplane, a big airplane until that point. So it was kind of a fun experience for me. This guy's name was Peter. And I think it was like Peter Scott. I can't remember really. His name might have been Scott. Scott Peter, I don't know. But anyway, it doesn't matter. When I met this man, hi, I'm Judy. And, you look somebody in the eye when you meet them generally. I had the most, I didn't know what the experience was. I did know something. Because at this point I wasn't really delving into the idea of reincarnation. At this point I was really not doing it much actively as far as spirituality or religion is concerned. That was still within me and it drove me, but I wasn't as aware of it. So I meet this guy, look him in the eyes, shake hands. His eyes pierced my soul. I remember thinking, I feel like I know him. I couldn't even not look at him. Like, it must have been awkward. At the time, I didn't feel awkward, but for anybody around us, because I know he felt it too, because we just kept looking at each other. It was a familiar person. I knew this guy. I'd never met him before, but I knew him. I felt like we clicked, and it wasn't romantic, it wasn't anything like that. It wasn't physical at all. It was something deep inside my heart of hearts, And I remember every time, for the next 3 or 4 days, we were talking, and we were all talking to each other and working and learning and eating and maybe dancing. But whatever we were doing, I would look at him and find that he was looking at me. He hadn't fallen madly in love. It wasn't that, believe me. It was something beyond, and we never talked about it. But I remember seeking him out to ask him some questions about this whole system, and I really just wanted to look at him. Like, I couldn't stop looking him in the eye. I remember what he looked like. I remember he had salt and pepper gray hair and a beard and glasses. I remember his build, you know, but I remember his eyes. He had brown eyes. Just a normal kind of color brown eyes, you know, it wasn't like dark or lighter, they were brown eyes. But whatever I saw was behind his eyes. And I understood where the expression comes from that says, you can see your soul in the eyes of somebody else, you know, that's where we see the soul. Why was he familiar to me when I'd never met him? Because I must have known him. We both knew it. I know he felt it too. I know he did, just by the way he was acting just like me. We knew each other. We didn't talk about it. So here's how it works, and this is an easy way to explain. Let's pretend, I'm not even going to let time go by, I'm just going to say the same, I'm going to explain the way this works, like in real time, but actually it's probably taken thousands of years. So let's say one day you're walking down the street, you know, just walking down whatever town you live in, just walking down the street. And here you go walking this way. And there's other people coming this way. There might be a lot of other people. Who knows, you may be in New York City and it's busy. Sorry. Dry throat. See, I talk too much. That's better. So you're walking down the street and you pass a bunch of people. You don't even really notice them. You're not really looking at them. Sorry, tickle again. This is a bad time for a tickle because I don't want to start this video over. So you're just going to have to put up with this. Oh my. Maybe a longer drink will help. Or maybe I'm not supposed to be saying any of this. Maybe it's somebody telling me shut up. Anyway, so all these people walk by. You don't even notice them. You got your mind somewhere you're thinking about where you're going or whatever. Using the whole Groundhog Day idea where you can do this one day after another, it wouldn't be that, but the next day, you're walking down the street, same thing, thinking about where you're going. And somebody coming toward you, just happen to look up and see this person. It could be a man or a woman, doesn't matter. See this person walking and just kind of glance at them and you don't really notice much about them. You just happen to notice them and keep going. The next day you're walking down the street thinking about what you're going to do. And the people are coming and you notice this person and they may be a different person, but you notice them and you look at them like, oh isn't that, boy, she's really pretty, or oh, he's a good looking guy, or whatever. Keep going. Next day, you're walking down the street and this person's coming at you a little bit closer. They're not over there, they're kind of closer, so they're going to pass right by you now. So this time they pass right by you, you kind of glance at them and oh, did I see her yesterday? Next day you're walking down the street and this person's coming. And this time maybe they accidentally bump into you. Oh, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Oh, it's okay, it's okay. So what you get, if you get my idea, what's happening is in each life, you may pass a soul that is not involved with you at all, but they become more and more and more familiar. And then at some point, the person bumps into you, and maybe you're a man, she's a woman, or it could be two women or two men, or whatever it is. You say, oh, oh, that's okay, it's okay. Hey, you dropped your package here, let me get that for you. Maybe this person's carrying a bunch of stuff, And so you stop and actually help them. And, I know it's a beautiful day. You just chat very briefly and keep going. At some point, this is going to turn into, hey, do you want to have coffee? Or maybe you meet them somewhere else now. You really recognize them because they bumped into you today and you had to pick up all their packages and you talked about how nice the weather was and hopefully it wasn't going to rain tomorrow. And the next time you see them, maybe you're at a bookstore and you're picking out a book and they happen to be standing right next to you picking a book. You go, hey, aren't you the person who I bumped into? And then at some point it turns into a friendship. It turns into maybe more, depending on what the purpose is, over the course of many, many lives. Instead of days, consider this to be one life, another life, another life, another life. You don't have to be walking down the same street, obviously. This is just kind of metaphoric. At some point, the person becomes familiar enough to you that you feel comfortable saying, hey, whatever, and you go dating, maybe you break up, in another life you date and you don't break up, maybe you get married, maybe you get divorced in one life, in the next life maybe you don't get divorced, to the point where you're very, very close, your souls know one another so much that then another life comes along in a different scenario and you meet somebody, maybe you're, not even an adult. You could be like 8 or 9 or 10 or 12 years old and meet somebody and immediately feel like I know you. Like I know we've never met, but somehow we're connected. It's so weird. And if you don't believe in reincarnation, there would be no explanation for that. Other than, they remind you of somebody you used to know or But usually that's not the case. It's just somebody that you run into that you go, I know you. I don't know how I know you. I don't know why I know you, but I know you. And if that person leaves your life like this Peter guy did, this guy from Atlanta, I never saw him again. He never came to my town to see how things were going in the software business. I never saw him again in this life. I don't doubt for a second, whoever he is, he's not him. Whoever that soul is, I know that soul from somewhere. And I have no doubt if that connection was there, and I know it was there for him too, in the same way. We've got some unfinished business. I'll bet we're going to run into each other again. Sometime. Maybe many times. Before he becomes a good friend or whatever. So, why some people seem so familiar and you almost care about them right away and don't even know who they are really. You don't even know this person, but you just care about them because you know their soul. You've probably spent many, many lives bumping into each other. What about the people you don't like? You meet people that you don't like, or they get on your nerves, or And those people we don't feel that same kind of connection with. What we usually feel is, I just don't like her. I don't like her. I don't know why. There's something about her, I just don't like her. So that soul may have been one that caused you some kind of problem or discomfort in another life. Maybe they beat you up. Maybe they stole from you. Maybe they killed you. Maybe they hurt somebody you loved. And now here they are again in your life. Why? Why? I just don't like them. I don't want to talk to her. No, I'm not going to go to lunch if she's going. No, I'm not going to do that. Now, I don't know if you're thinking of it from a soul perspective, then you have to understand that that person has probably offered you some kind of an experience and is still doing that. Thank you very much, that you need to know how to love. So I'm going to give you an example. It's kind of it's not a great example, but this can also happen, kind of something in the middle of that. I work with a girl who I just think is a very good-hearted person. She's got a lot of insecurities. She acts and talks within those insecurities all the time. But she's a wonderful heart. I just know she's a good person. She has some spiritual beliefs. She doesn't actively practice anything religiously or spiritually, I don't think, but she does have some spiritual beliefs. But there's some things about her that just get on my nerves. And she can get me to a point where I'm in the workplace swearing, angry, frustrated more. It's not angry, it's frustrated. And I don't know why. I don't know why these things that she does bother me so much. I mean, I can justify my feelings. We always can. Why not? But in reality, it's almost like a switch that turns on. And I just get irritated. And it's not an irritation with her. It's sometimes an irritation with something she says or the way she acts. She has a certain way of acting, almost like she's naive. And she's not. It's a game she plays, and I know that. She's not naive. She's not stupid. She's probably really smart. There's just something about some of the things she says and does that just, I want to strangle her. And I get very angry. My reaction goes from, we should love each other, to, what the, I get really mad. And I act ridiculous. And I don't think there's anybody else in my life that makes me feel that way. Well, it's obvious she's not making me feel this way. It's obvious there's something between us that I don't know what it is. But it's something we have to balance. Because she gets irritated with me when I get irritated with her. Love her to death. But, so it can go the other way. It doesn't always have to be a wonderful experience. It can also be something that's, I don't like her at all, or why does she do this? It can be anything, any relationship. Here's what people don't understand too. Like the people in your life, your family, your immediate family, mom, dad, sisters, brothers, those people, even grandparents maybe, certainly grandparents because I'm one, so I'm sure I'm connected to all my grandchildren. But they all have some connection to you from before, or you wouldn't be in that situation. Understand that you really were just passing each other on the street and eventually got closer, eventually got to be friends. So then you come back and you can be a family together and help each other. This is when that group decision is made about destiny, and the experiences you need to have to better love. So you can have a bunch of people around you. And I do not doubt for a second, not for a split second or less, that the people you work with or you go to school with or the ones that you sit close to, past them before. So I think the people that we experience in our lives, it may be the first pass by on some people, but I bet you many of them may be people we have seen before. We just don't know it. We don't even feel it because it's not been that close of a relationship. I think if you have that thing like I had with that guy in Atlanta, we must have been very close in some life. Maybe I was his son and he was not a father but the mother. And you don't have to be a man or a woman all the time. You can, what kind of perspective is that to always just be a man? You got to have all perspectives to have real love. So it could have been that we had a mother-child relationship. Or maybe it was maybe we were both priests in the same church and we lived in the same priest house, whatever that's called. It could be any close relationship that's familiar. It would have had to be a loving relationship somewhere where you really cared for each other, and it could be platonic. It does not have to be sexual, and you each other's best friend kind of a thing, So sometimes when you let's say see a musical band, and you look at the ones that are the most successful compared to the ones that aren't. Let's use the Beatles, because that's a really well-known, I don't think anybody, probably not too many people, would go, who are the Beatles? They might not know their music, but they know the Beatles are a famous group, you know. So here's 4 young lads from Liverpool, England, where my great-grandmother was from, who met each other what seemed like randomly, but not maybe, right? And they all had their own talents, and they all had the drive to be musicians, but they were four very different people. But the chemistry between them created something that changed music forever. And if you didn't live through it, it'd be hard to look back on the Beatles' music and go, why was it so amazing? Because it was new. It was nothing, no one had ever sounded like that before. Nothing had ever made that kind of music before, and they stayed ahead of themselves all the time. Where they were in 1967, the rest of the musical world didn't catch up for at least 2 years. They were always ahead of themselves. And then they broke up, and people were really upset. They tried to blame somebody. We don't know. Well, we do know. I mean, if you think about it, obviously they weren't supposed to be together as a band for the rest of their lives. They needed to do that chemistry, that karma that they had. Maybe they balanced some karma between each other, or maybe they just built a relationship that maybe in another life, or 150,000 years down the road, they'll come back together, and who knows, maybe there'll be a family next time, mother, son, a daughter, a husband, it could be just something like that. It's really all about the experience. It's really all about having a relationship with other people, with other experiences that you can bring now into your soul's overall understanding and way to know what love is. And it's a lot of experiences. Like I said a long time ago in one of the videos I made, I'm saying a long time ago, I think I started doing this 3 days ago, but I'm moving on, one of my very first videos explained that we simply cannot know how to be, I think I used the example, you don't know what it's like to be black until you're black. You don't know what it's like to be white until you're white. You don't know what it's like to be rich until you're rich. You don't know what it's like to be a musician if you've never been a musician. So these are all experiences, and the purpose of reincarnation is to give us those experiences. But why we know somebody, why we know them without knowing them, and it's happened to everybody. I'm sure everybody would probably say, yeah, I actually did meet somebody one time that I felt like I knew them, but I didn't know from where. I'd never met them before. It was weird. Or they'll say, from the get-go, I just didn't like her. I didn't want to be around this person. I don't know why. I don't have any reason. She didn't do anything to me, but I just don't like her. And they never realize that there's probably a reason for that. Now, when you meet somebody that you've known before, is it always a good relationship? In other words, is it a positive relationship, one that you're building love? Sometimes no. Sometimes the purpose of meeting someone first off, you feel it, but so you're attracted to each other, but then there's maybe that person is not the best person in the whole world to be hanging out with, but that's a lesson. That's something you are teaching each other. So that person is maybe a bad influence, but they need to be a bad influence to understand what that feels like. You maybe are a good person, and you need to experience kind of being drawn into the dark side. You don't have to stay there, but sometimes it takes people lives and lives and lives before they realize, oh, this isn't really something I have to do. I can actually be on the bright side, I don't have to stay there. So sometimes they offer us a lesson in who we should not be. And they do it lovingly because we've known them so many times before. So no matter what you are experiencing now, happiness, sadness, loneliness, joy, whatever it may be, it's an experience your soul needs. And the people in your life are people you know already. You've known them probably many, many times. But those people you feel like you've known forever, or you don't like immediately for no reason you can explain, there's a reason. So let me know what you think about what I've said, if it makes sense to you, or if it's like crazy. And I'll be back with another video, I'm sure later today. Don't forget to leave those comments and hit that like button if you liked it. Have a good one.